I grew up in a Baptist church, a African American Baptist church in Maryland, and I think from a young age I was interested in religious things. I mean, it didn't occur to me until I was an adult that it was perhaps peculiar that I was like this 13-year-old asking my aunt about going to Bible study during the weekly Bible study because there were a lot of other kids there, right? So that's kind of part of just what I was interested in, right? So there was something about religious matters that drew me, right? So I had, I think, a kind of an inclination towards religion, or now theologically one could argue, this was God drawing me, from a young age, perhaps. Certainly, I think one of the biggest things for me was when I was involved with the parachurch group, the Navigators, in college. I mean, I found myself just exposed to ways of learning and knowing about the Bible and walking a path of discipleship that was incredibly catalytic for me. I mean, it's like, wow, this is awesome. I think as part of that, a big transformative moment for me was pretty much sophomore, junior year, grasping what, having a faith that meant that my entire life belonged to God rather than just God attending to my eternal destiny and being a nice person. That God owning my life and directing my life. I think that is one of the biggest transforming things to me. So big that I wondered if it was like my actual conversion. It was not, but I think it was it made such a big difference in my life. I kind of felt like it at the time. So that was a big thing for me. Discovering that I could be a Christian and love rock and roll was also really important because I've always been drawn towards the culture and public matters, and discovering that there's a faith that you can actually do this, and that to be committed to God didn't have to mean staying out of public, and that worldly didn't mean that there's like a do not pass go sign when it comes to public engagement. To me, that was huge, actually. So that's been really formative for me. Certainly, just the fact that within Christianity, having people love me and care about me and love me, knowing my imperfections, people being patient with me with my imperfections and being willing to help me to become more Christ-like, and not acting like, okay, unless you're immediately completely Christ-like, we're done with you, but instead just wanting to help me, through different friendships, honestly, become more and more like Jesus. I mean, that's very, very huge for me. So I think, seeing, within the big picture, within relationships within the church, people care for you and helping to direct you towards being more Christ-like, been, I think, one of the biggest things. I think also what's important is learning that to be in the world of faith doesn't mean that you're in a world where everything is perfect, but that you're in a world where people are growing and learning, where conflicts happen, where sometimes they're handled well, sometimes they're not handled well, where institutions sometimes do things well, where sometimes they do things really not so well, and that none of that means that the institution is bad or that the faith is bad. It just means that, surprise, surprise, between Genesis 3 and Revelation 21 and 22, there are things that remind you that things are not quite always as you hope that they will be, and that's just the way the world is. And that sometimes in Christian institutions, when they're at their best, you're really seeing, well, this is what happens at its best when you have Christians involved with this. So being able to see the good, but also recognizing that you shouldn't be surprised when things don't measure up to your expectations, and understanding that shouldn't be a surprise. I mean, even if they're legitimate disappointment, you still shouldn't be surprised because the world isn't yet as it should be. That helps me to engage the world and engage the faith, I think, with a certain kind of Christian realism.